Hello everyone and welcome to the Global Adventures, the channel where I explore different countries and cultures around the world. In this video, I'm going to tell you the top reasons why you should not move to Canada. Yes, you heard me right, not move to Canada. Now before you get angry and start typing hate comments, let me explain. Canada is a great country with many advantages such as free healthcare, low crime rate, beautiful nature, and multicultural city. But it also has some disadvantages that you might not be aware of or might not like. So if you are thinking of moving to Canada, you might want to watch this video until the end and see if you can handle these cons. And if you are already living in Canada, don't worry, I'm not trying to bash your country. I'm just trying to give a balanced perspective and have some fun. So without further ado, let's get started. Reason number 1, delay in healthcare services. The first reason why you should not move to Canada is the delay in healthcare services. While it is true that Canada has a free universal healthcare system, which is awesome, it also means that there is a high demand and a limited supply of doctors and nurses. This results in long waiting times for non-emergency procedures, such as elective surgeries, specialist consultations, and diagnostic tests. According to a report by the Fraser Institute, the median wait time for medically necessary treatment in Canada was 22.6 weeks in 2020, which is the longest ever recorded. That means that if you need a hip replacement, a cataract surgery, or an MRI scan, you might have to wait for months before you get it. And if you have a chronic condition or a rare disease, you might have to wait even longer. Of course, you can always go to a private clinic and pay out of your pocket, but that defeats the purpose of having a free healthcare system, right? Reason number 2, government regulations. The second reason why you should not move to Canada is the government regulations. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Canada is a dictatorship or a police state. Canada is a democracy with a parliamentary system and a constitutional monarchy. But it is also a country that has a lot of rules and regulations that might seem excessive or intrusive to some people. For example, Canada has strict gun laws, high taxes, censorship laws, environmental laws, and consumer protection laws. Some of these laws are meant to protect the public safety, the health, and the rights of the citizens, which is commendable. But some of these laws might also limit your personal freedom, your choices, and your opportunities. For instance, if you want to buy a gun, you have to go through a background check, a safety course, a licensing process, and a registration process. If you want to start a business, you have to comply with various federal, provincial, and municipal regulations, such as zoning, licensing, permits, taxes, and fees. And if you want to express your opinion, you have to be careful not to violate the hate speech laws, the defamation laws, or the human rights laws. Reason number 3, expensive cost of living. The third reason why you should not move to Canada is the expensive cost of living. Canada is not a cheap country to live in, especially if you want to live in a big city such as Toronto, Vancouver, or Montreal. According to Numbeo, a website that compares the cost of living in different countries, Canada ranks 25th out of 138 countries in terms of the cost of living index, which measures the prices of groceries, restaurants, transportation, utilities, rent, and other expenses. That means that Canada is more expensive than the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Japan, among others. For example, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the city center of Toronto is $2, 131, which is equivalent to $1,686 US. The average price of a liter of gasoline in Canada is $1, 33, which is equivalent to $1.05. And the average price of a loaf of bread in Canada is $3, 04, which is equivalent to $2.41. Of course, the cost of living varies depending on the location, the lifestyle, and the income level of the individual. But in general, you can expect to pay more for everything in Canada than in many other countries. Reason number 4, harsh weather. The fourth reason why you should not move to Canada is the harsh weather. Canada is known for its cold and snowy winters, which can last for up to 6 months in some regions. The average temperature in Canada in January is minus 10.4 degrees Celsius, which is equivalent to 13.3 degrees Fahrenheit. The lowest temperature ever recorded in Canada was minus 63 degrees Celsius, which is equivalent to minus 81.4 degrees Fahrenheit in Snag, Yukon, in 1947. And the highest amount of snowfall ever recorded in Canada was 8.8 meters, which is equivalent to 28.9 feet, in Tatsa Lake, British Columbia, in 1971 to 1972. Now, some people might enjoy the winter activities such as skiing, snowboarding, ice skating, and snowshoeing. But some people might find the winter depressing, boring, and dangerous. The winter can affect your mood, your health, and your safety. You might experience seasonal affective disorder, which is a type of depression that occurs during the winter months due to the lack of sunlight. You might catch a cold, a flu, or a frostbite due to the low temperatures and the dry air. And you might get into a car accident, a slip and fall, or a hypothermia due to the icy roads, the slippery sidewalks, and the extreme cold. Reason number 5, the immigration process. Another reason why you might not want to move to Canada is the immigration process. Canada is a popular destination for immigrants from all over the world, and it has a reputation for being a welcoming and multicultural country. But that doesn't mean it's easy to get in. Canada has a complex and competitive immigration system, which requires you to meet certain criteria, such as education, work experience, language skills, and financial resources. You also have to apply for the right immigration program, which can vary depending on your situation and goals. Some of the most common immigration programs are the Express Entry, the Provincial Nominee Program, the Family Sponsorship, the Canadian Experience Class, and the Startup Visa. Each program has its own requirements, application process, and processing time, which can take from a few months to a few years. You also have to pay fees for your application, your medical exam, your biometrics, your language test, your police certificate, and your permanent resident card. And you have to gather and submit a lot of documents, such as your passport, your birth certificate, your diploma, your resume, your bank statements, your tax returns, your reference letters, and your marriage certificate. And even after you get your invitation to apply, you still have to go through a background check, a security screening, and an interview before you get your final approval. And if you make any mistakes or miss any deadlines, your application might be rejected or delayed. So, if you're thinking of moving to Canada, be ready to face a long and challenging immigration process. And make sure you do your research and follow the instructions carefully. Reason number 6, the language barrier. Another reason why you might not want to move to Canada is the language barrier. Canada has 2 official languages, English and French. That means that both languages have equal status and rights in the government, the courts, the education system, and the media. That also means that you have to learn and use both languages if you want to fully participate and integrate in the Canadian society. Depending on where you live, you might have to deal with different levels of bilingualism and francophone culture. For example, in Quebec, the majority of the population speaks French as their first language, and you'll need to speak French to get a job, to access services, to make friends, and to enjoy the local culture. In Ontario, the majority of the population speaks English as their first language, but there are also many francophone communities and institutions, and you'll need to speak both languages to access some opportunities and benefits. In New Brunswick, the only officially bilingual province, you'll have to speak both languages to communicate with everyone and to avoid conflicts. And in the other provinces and territories, you'll mostly speak English, but you'll also encounter some French speakers and some signs and documents in French. So if you're moving to Canada, you'll have to learn and improve your English and French skills, which can be hard and time-consuming. You'll also have to adapt to different accents, dialects, slang, and expressions, which can be confusing and frustrating. And you'll have to deal with some stereotypes, prejudices, and tensions between the 2 linguistic groups, which can be annoying and unpleasant. So if you're looking for a place with a simple and straightforward language situation, Canada might not be the best choice for you. Reason number 7, the lack of diversity. The last reason why you might not want to move to Canada is the lack of diversity. Canada is often praised for its diversity and multiculturalism, and it's true that Canada is home to people from many different backgrounds, cultures, religions, and ethnicities. But that doesn't mean that Canada is a melting pot of harmony and equality. Canada still has a lot of issues and challenges when it comes to diversity and inclusion, such as racism, discrimination, prejudice, and marginalization. For example, Canada has a history of mistreating and oppressing its Indigenous peoples, who have faced genocide, colonization, assimilation, and exploitation. Canada also has a history of excluding and exploiting its immigrants and refugees, who have faced racism, xenophobia, exploitation, and deportation. Canada also has a history of discriminating and persecuting its minorities and marginalized groups who have faced sexism, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and hate crimes. But Canada still has a long way to go to achieve true diversity and inclusion and to overcome its systemic and structural barriers and biases. So if you're moving to Canada, you might have to face some challenges and difficulties because of your identity, background, culture, or beliefs. You might have to deal with some ignorance, intolerance, hostility, or violence from some people or institutions. You might have to struggle to find your place and your voice in the Canadian society. So, if you're looking for a place where you can feel fully accepted and respected, Canada might not be the ideal destination for you. So, there you have it. These are some of the top reasons why you should not move to Canada. Of course, this video is not meant to discourage you from moving to Canada or to bash Canada in any way. Canada is still a great country with many positive aspects and opportunities. However, it's important to be realistic and aware of the potential challenges and drawbacks that you might face if you decide to relocate there. Moving to a new country is a big decision, and you should do your research and weigh the pros and cons before you make it. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this topic. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get notified of my new videos. I post new videos every week about living and traveling around the world, and I don't want you to miss them. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.